appointed me. I do a lot of research, I always read a lot, I do comparisons with other cities. So we had a presentation and we made 40 or so recommendations to change in the city's ethics code specifically and in our public finance to be more accountable, hold government more accountable, or be more transparent. Last minute on the dais, after about 3 hours, we had one of the council members, it had been rumored, at the beginning of the meeting that he was going to bring up a change. He didn't bring it up, but he got a colleague to bring it up. And that decision, so they basically did an amendment on the spot. And that decision was going to negatively impact small businesses and nonprofit organizations. I know my Robert's Rules of Order very well, so I knew I couldn't step up and speak again because my presentation time was over. We're limited to questions, but I couldn't just sit there, right? And so I literally got up and just went to the mic, and the mayor recognized me. And I said, I just want to let you all know that this will affect small businesses and nonprofits. And I have to say that because we've been working for 18 months on these 40 plus changes. We've never discussed this. And even though I said that, the council still voted in favor. And it had to do with blackout times, etc., as you're doing business with the city. And I think that was the straw, right, that finally broke the camel's back, because I felt that if you're uninformed and you're making a decision on the spot, questioning 10, well technically 11 representatives of your entire city that you put in a committee to represent you, to do the homework, that had been working for 18 months, to change that was so disrespectful to all of us, to the city by extension. That's what I read. Yes.
Hey, so Ron Moe for Atlas Mobile Notary Services. So if I was someone who was interested in the Ready to Work program, if I wanted to be a brick mason or a carpenter, where do I go? How do I get started? What do I tell people that are interested in this program?
The easiest way to connect is call 311. Call 311. Our representative there in the city will take your basic demographic information and we'll get you connected to one of our 4 providers through that meeting.
And is it like an extensive application process?
There's the initial intake through 311 is very basic: name, address, information, and then the intake process through one of our partners, those 4 contractors, Workforce Solutions Alamo, Project Quest, Restore Education, Alamo Colleges, is a little bit more intensive, and they'll walk you through that process, collecting all the information, all the background that you need, your wage verification, all that pieces to make sure you qualify. But once they get you that initial intake, you're working with that one person throughout the entirety to help you to navigate that process and make it more comfortable for the participant.
Mike, I also met 2 training providers over there, and so I'm sure you'll want to connect with them.
Absolutely.
So.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
So when did we vote on that housing bond you were speaking of?
Saturday. So Saturday's your last opportunity.
I teed you up.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
And that bond, because of all the construction projects in it, you're going to need more skilled labor to do all that work. So that's why this program is coming along at the right time, to make sure that we've got a strong pipeline of those skilled tradesmen that are able to maintain the workforce you need to get that work done.
Just one question: was CDL truck driving, was that one of the considerations?
Absolutely. Yep, it's one of our targeted occupations. There's 76 of them. I don't remember all by members, but I know CDL is on there for sure. CDL truck drivers is a great need for them. I was looking at an article last week about how the salaries have increased so much because there's such a scarcity of qualified CDL drivers. We want to make sure that we do our part to make sure that pipeline gets filled.
Kind of a follow-up to that is insurance rates for CDL drivers, owner-occupied. It's ungodly expensive. So even if you are training them on getting their CDL licenses, is there any kind of safety net for them or some sort of follow-up teaching them how to maintain and how to negotiate insurance rates, and then is there anything that maybe the city could be kind of, there's nowhere in the United States that anybody's doing this. There's no one fighting for that CDL driver. And so, for example, with what our wonderful governor just did at the border, there was a CDL driver, let's say, for example, sat there for 36 hours. CDL drivers can only be on the road for 32 hours. So 4 hours of those are waiting in the green produce. That owner big trucks, and it's debilitating. You can't move forward, but you can't move backward because you've already invested our entire retirement into this small business. So as much as you want to, and as trained as you are, there's no support system for the CDL driver. So just something to think about, just to see.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. So I'll certainly take that back to my colleagues. I will let you know that yesterday when we were having the small business owners come and present, and by the way, the Hispanic Chamber was well represented there. They had speakers, the mayor and Councilman Pelaez were there. Councilman Pelaez is the chair of Economic and Workforce Development, of course the mayor's there. So we got to listen firsthand to your chamber chair, the incoming chair, Denise Hernandez, speak. We heard from Mark Hernandez, her husband, who was advocating for you all, by the way, in Washington, D.C., to the Small Business Administration. It was very, very powerful, by the way, the testimony he delivered. A lot of representatives that are really watching out for you. The CPA guy who stands up for a lot of small businesses. I'm surprised he's not here. And Martin. Martin is always there. I've got to say, he's my fellow Longhorn, so look on. But he is at everything. So your voice is always represented. Again, y'all didn't need to say this, I promise. But your voice is always represented. I can guarantee you that I'm going to see Martin. As a matter of fact, he wasn't there the other day because he was a little late, and I noticed. So I was like, where's Martin? And so, oh, sorry, I just said that for your boss, right? Sorry. But he got there.
He was at a staff meeting.
Oh, there we go. So anyway, Martin will text me if something's moved because he's like, am I supposed to, where is it supposed to be? And so he makes sure he's representing you all. One of the things that Martin brought up was specifically, and the others also brought up, was access to grants, specifically, not loans, grants. So imagine what a grant could do to your small business. So we have $30.9 million that we will be allocating out of the Economic and Workforce Development Committee. We probably should focus a majority of that on grants, right? Now, there's two schools of thought. Give it to organizations, right, that will then get it. There's an application process that they've already established, et cetera. Then get it to the small business owners. There's other folks that are like, just give it to the small businesses. One of the, Jeremy Roberts, who is the chair of the SBAC, the Small Business Advisory Committee right now, keeps talking about the 60-30-10 rule. 10% people know exactly what to do, small business owners. 30%, they know where to go to ask for help, but 60% have no idea. We want to make sure that we get to even that 60%, right? So we're going to have to find a balance between giving it directly and giving it through organizations. And I'll be the first to admit that those organizations, we could improve. We could improve with what the organizations did. The district that I represent was the lowest grant recipients for the original program a year ago or so. So that was upsetting to me because I know that my people don't have access to internet. I know that my people are working their jobs. They're not going to be able to leave and come to a workshop. How do we get to those people who are struggling, who are in that 60%, if you will? Now, granted, one of the organizations did a stellar job focusing on African American businesses. African American businesses have the second number of microloans that organization gave. And that's huge. We still, by the way, I was reading the status of African Americans in San Antonio. We have an even larger gap, right, that we need to absolutely fill for our small business owners. So working together with SAGE, with Growth on the East Side, is also going to be critical. But to your point, we need to help small businesses. They're the experts. They know what they need, right? So I think what I've heard from yesterday, from today, my recollection of everything that I've heard is that we need those grants. We don't need loans. We absolutely need the small business owners to have access to capital without as much red tape as we traditionally have seen. And then you had a question.
Yeah, you partially answered it a little bit. Community, is there a liaison connected to getting the word out in the religious or the Christian community? Because when people meet together, there's a ton of opportunity. I'm just thinking about my church specifically, like how great of a program this would be if we got our leaders together and one place you guys had somebody that could come out and talk, something like this and light a fire them because, I mean, people don't know what they don't know. So, that community, the religious or the church community, I don't know if you guys have somebody that's already primed for that we, not say we, I'm saying, a tour could be set up for the San Antonio area, or call a mass group like this and get it out so that they can, because there are a lot of people sitting in those churches that need this information.
So 3 things that I can think of, and then I'll let Mike add. So for Ready to Work, we partnered a lot with Cox Metro, Citizens Organized for Public Service. They happen to be in every Catholic community. However, that's just a Catholic community, right? So we also have saintrit.org, which is an organization that has every nonprofit, well, hopefully every nonprofit in there. So you literally type in, services, whatever kind of service you need, and it pulls up by area code, or sorry, by zip code, the closest service to you, right? And so I don't know if we're on that already, but he just made me think of that. I'm pretty sure we are, but
Yeah,
just
we're connected with Sacred.
yes. So Sacred, and then we also have our faith liaison at the city. The faith liaison meets with, I think it's
Intersection.
there you go, yes, Ann Humke, and she, have you presented to them?
I have.
So there you go. So then I'll let Mike take over.
Yeah, the intersection, they, kind of pick up and invite members of all the faith community, no matter what faith you are, to come together and talk about the issues that are important to their congregations, so to get information about what the city is doing and disseminate to those groups. So that's one of the ways that we're trying to do it, but I'm more than open to, going out and, doing a tour of different faith-based community organizations, bringing them together and talking to them all at once. I was last night at Cleft of the Rock Church in western part of San Antonio, presenting alongside Adriana Lopez, CEO of Workforce Solutions Alamo, about Ready to Work program, just trying to do everything we can to get the word out to make sure that the community is aware. So absolutely, I'll be happy to get you information after this, and we can talk about how we can, begin to make those inroads.
Councilwoman, 2 weeks ago at the Economic and Workforce Committee meeting, it was discussing the competitive nature of accessing the funds. Does that mean we're going to have an RFP? Because I write the grants for our organization, so when you say grants, I'm here.
I don't know what the process is. We're still figuring that out. So for instance, Lift Fund already has a process that they use to distribute the first go-around. We don't know if that's going to be the direction, or if it is going to be an RFP, but if you think about it, RFPs, that adds at least another 2 to 3 months. Our small business owners can't wait. So I've told this to folks, my small business owners, my residents are about 1 minute away from losing hope. So every additional layer of red tape that we put on that, which might include the RFP, might slow that down. And I don't want any more small businesses to close, right? And so that's why it's important to really consider, if there's already a process, how can we improve that process? What did we learn from the first go around so that we could now really reconnect and focus on those folks who did it? So I don't know that it's going to be an RFP process.
How do we get in the mix is what I'm saying.
Sorry?
How do we get in the mix?
Oh, well, you're already, so you're advocating. You have been at the Economic Workforce Development Committees. I think you're there. So just keep doing what you're doing. Keep getting in front of us, reminding us that you're there. Same for the group over here if you're not already a part of it. So just keep tugging at us.
Okay.
Send emails, send letters. It works. So yes.
I'm glad you talked about that because, of course, I hear grants, and we're a small business, we're general contractors, and as you know, construction, it behaved like crazy. When supply chains, prices, now it's coming back together. We got contracts canceled, we had delays, so it was, and I'm sure I'm speaking from like many other contractors. And when you talked about grants, well, yeah, and that I think we all want that. If that passes, it's going to be Christmas for everybody. But if it doesn't, I hear you talk about the program, and I love to help people, and I would love to employ more people. But in order to do that, I need more contracts. I need more work. So how can you help small business to connect or to direct them to have more work so we can all work in this program. If the grant is not happening, what's plan B?
Yeah, so I think Mike said it earlier, he mentioned the bond is going to have a great opportunity for projects. And so hopefully once the bond passes, because there's a whole lot, it's not just housing, it's parks, it's streets, it's drainage, so it's opportunities that we have to get people working, right? And so when that happens, and yes, there's RFPs that are released, I think that there needs to be a concentrated effort on focusing on our small local businesses, right? And so that's one of the, I don't want to get ahead of myself, or I just don't want to jinx it, right? So I haven't said that, but I think that's going to be a big push, or that's definitely going to be one of my big pushes when the bond passes, that we focus on local, because we need to get our community back to where you employ our residents. And so it's not just the benefit that comes to the company, it's by extension to the entire community. When you think about direct, indirect, and induced effects, right, of projects, that's exactly what the bond is intended to do, and it's a perfect opportunity right now that lines up with the Ready to Work program. But there's going to be that balance, right? So we need works, the catch-22 concept, right? So, but then we need employees, we don't have trained employees, but now we have jobs, so it's a careful balance of it, and that's what we're trying to work on daily at the city. And you all, I have to get to a press conference at 10 o'clock, so Tim's getting nervous over there. But feel free to email me with any other questions, and thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause.
Can we get a picture of everybody in the back?
Yes, anyone that wants to be in the photo, just crowd in here, stand up, and we're going to do a quick photo.
I like that way.
Yeah.
Photo bomb away. All right, I'm going to take a few, and I'll share these with Buddy and her team. 1, 2, and
Wait, I think I should leave that.
fantastic. Thank you, everyone.
Come on, baby.